The sun rose slowly over the golden sands of North Africa, casting long shadows over the empty dunes. But these deserts weren't silent anymore. They echoed with the rumble of tanks, the drone of warplanes, and the nervous breath of young American soldiers stepping onto foreign soil for the very first time. This was November 8, 1942, the launch of Operation Torch, the United States' first major ground offensive in World War II. Before this, America had been a distant player in the war, sending weapons, ships, and supplies under the Lend-Lease Act, helping Britain and the Soviets survive Hitler's onslaught. But now, after the shocking Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor the year before, America was in the war with boots on the ground. And those boots were about to hit dirt in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. America's enemy in North Africa wasn't just the desert heat or the vast, unfamiliar terrain. It was twofold: first, the Vichy French, who had aligned with Nazi Germany after France's surrender, and second, the real monster in the desert, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, also known as the Desert Fox. Rommel was a legend. A tactical genius. His Afrika Korps had humiliated British forces for over a year, pushing deep into Egypt and threatening the entire Middle Eastern oil supply. The Allies knew, if they didn't stop Rommel in Africa, they'd never make it into Europe. The Americans, however, were untested, young, optimistic, but green. Their weapons were new. Their training was rushed. And their enemy had years of brutal, real-world experience. But what they had more than anything was belief. Belief in something bigger than themselves. Belief that they could stand shoulder to shoulder with the world's best, and begin to turn the tide of the greatest war humanity had ever seen. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the calm yet determined Supreme Commander, directed the operation. He didn't want just a military win. He wanted to show the world that the United States was ready and serious. The landings didn't go perfectly. In Casablanca, Oran, and Algiers, American troops met mixed reactions. Some Vichy French forces resisted, others surrendered quickly. There were naval battles, street fights, and confusion. But within a few days, the Americans had taken their first foothold. Then came the real test: Tunisia. Here, Rommel waited. And here, in early 1943, the Americans got their first true taste of war. At the Battle of Kasserine Pass, Rommel launched a brutal attack, and the inexperienced U.S. troops were thrown into chaos. It was a humiliating loss. Hundreds were killed. Tanks were destroyed. Orders broke down. For a moment, it looked like Rommel would push them back into the sea. But America didn't break, it learned. Commanders adapted. Troops hardened. Supplies flowed in. And with help from British forces under General Montgomery, the tide turned. Rommel, outnumbered and outgunned, began to retreat. By May 1943, the Axis powers in North Africa, Germans and Italians, surrendered. Over 250,000 enemy troops were captured. It was the first massive victory for the Allies, and America had proven itself. The victory didn't just change maps. It changed minds. The world saw the United States not just as an economic superpower but as a rising military force with courage, commitment, and power. And for the soldiers who walked out of the African deserts, dirty, bloody, and alive, it was clear. This was only the beginning. Storming Fortress Europe. From the beaches of Normandy to the snow of the Ardennes. The sun had barely risen over the English Channel on the morning of June 6, 1944, when thousands of ships and planes filled the sky and sea. Soldiers tightened the straps on their helmets. Some clutched letters from home. Others whispered quiet prayers. Then the gates dropped. They were about to storm the most heavily defended coastline in the world. This was D-Day, the beginning of Operation Overlord, the Allied invasion of Nazi-occupied Western Europe. After years of preparation, sacrifice, and strategic planning, the United States, alongside Britain and Canada, launched an assault that would become the largest amphibious invasion in human history. The beaches had names: Omaha, Utah, Gold, Juneau, Sword, but for the soldiers landing there, those names meant only one thing: death or freedom. At Omaha Beach, American forces faced the fiercest resistance. German machine guns tore through the surf, mowing down the first waves of infantry. The water turned red. Chaos reigned. But the Americans kept pushing, crawling, climbing, dying until the bunkers fell silent. By nightfall, the beach was taken. Elsewhere, paratroopers from the U.S. 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions had dropped behind enemy lines hours before dawn. Many landed far from their targets, lost in hedgerows, swamps, or enemy fields. But they regrouped, sabotaged bridges, captured key crossroads, and blocked German reinforcements. Their bravery held the line while the beachheads were secured. Within days, the Allies had landed over 150,000 troops in Normandy, including more than 70,000 Americans. The invasion had succeeded, but the battle for France was just beginning. The countryside was dense with hedgerows, perfect for German ambushes. Towns were reduced to rubble. Every village had to be taken house by house, brick by brick. But slowly, steadily, the Allies pushed forward. By August 1944, Paris was liberated. Crowds filled the streets, kissing soldiers, waving flags, and crying with joy. The world watched as General Charles de Gaulle marched into the capital, and with him, thousands of American troops who had crossed oceans and beaches to help set France free. But the war was far from over. As the Allies moved toward Germany, Hitler prepared one final, desperate counterattack. It came in December 1944, in the freezing forests of Belgium. Over 250,000 German troops launched a surprise assault on a thin American line. It was a gamble, Hitler's last chance to break the Western Front and turn the tide. This was the Battle of the Bulge. The initial German attack was devastating. Fog grounded Allied planes. Roads were choked with snow. American units were surrounded, outnumbered, and cut off. Entire towns were swallowed in the advance. One small garrison in the town of Bastogne, held by the 101st Airborne, was encircled and given an ultimatum: surrender or be destroyed. The American commander, General Anthony McAuliffe, replied with one word: nuts. That word became legend. As the skies cleared, American air support returned. General George S. Patton, the hard-driving tank commander, led a furious counterattack, racing his troops across icy roads to relieve the siege. Within weeks, the Germans were driven back. The Battle of the Bulge became the largest and bloodiest battle fought by the United States in World War II. Over 19,000 Americans died, but Hitler's army never recovered. By early 1945, the Allies were advancing from both sides: the Soviets from the east, the Americans and British from the west. Town after town fell. Concentration camps were discovered: Dachau, Buchenwald, revealing the unspeakable horrors of the Holocaust. Soldiers who had seen battle, death, and destruction were shaken to their core. Then, on April 30, 1945, deep in a bunker in Berlin, Adolf Hitler killed himself. A week later, on May 7, Germany officially surrendered. In towns across Europe, church bells rang for the first time in years. Soldiers danced. Civilians wept. And in America, crowds poured into the streets, celebrating VE Day victory in Europe. But for the United States, the war was not yet over. The fire from the sky. From island battles to the atomic end. When the guns fell silent in Europe in May 1945, one might have thought the war was over. But halfway across the world, in the vast waters of the Pacific, another war still raged. A war more brutal, more personal, and in many ways, more horrifying. It was a war of jungles and volcanoes, of kamikaze dives and island graves. And it was America's war to finish. After Pearl Harbor in 1941, Japan had swept across Asia like wildfire, capturing the Philippines, Singapore, Indonesia, and threatening Australia. But by 1942, the tide began to turn. The Battle of Midway, led by American code breakers and brave naval pilots, dealt Japan a blow from which it never fully recovered. Still, Japan refused to surrender. So America launched a long, painful strategy called island hopping, leapfrogging from island to island, capturing airstrips, cutting off supply lines, and inching closer to the Japanese mainland. Each island was a fortress. Every beach a death trap. In 1943 and 1944, Americans fought on Guadalcanal, Tarawa, and Saipan, names that had once been dots on a map but were now soaked in blood. But nothing prepared them for Iwo Jima. The tiny volcanic island, just 700 miles from Tokyo, was defended by over 20,000 Japanese troops, hidden in bunkers and tunnels. For over a month, U.S. Marines fought in brutal, close combat. Flamethrowers roared. Grenades echoed underground. The black sand turned red. Over 6,000 Americans died at Iwo Jima. But the flag they raised on Mount Suribachi became a symbol not just of victory, but of unimaginable sacrifice. Then came Okinawa, the last major battle before Japan itself. It was hell on earth, kamikaze pilots crashing into ships, civilians caught in the crossfire, and soldiers fighting with bayonets in the mud. Over 12,000 American troops died. Japanese losses, including civilians, were staggering over 100,000. As America stared across the sea toward Japan, one thing became terrifyingly clear: if an invasion was launched, millions might die on both sides. So President Harry Truman made the most controversial decision in human history. He would unleash a weapon that had never been used before: the atomic bomb. For years, in complete secrecy, America had been building it. The Manhattan Project, hidden in deserts and mountains, had brought together the world's brightest minds: Oppenheimer, Fermi, Einstein, to unlock the power of the atom. And now, that power was ready. On August 6, 1945, a lone American B-29 bomber named Enola Gay flew over the city of Hiroshima. At exactly 8:15 a.m., it dropped a bomb nicknamed Little Boy. What followed was not just an explosion, it was annihilation. In seconds, the city was reduced to ash. Over 70,000 people died instantly, with tens of thousands more dying in the days and weeks that followed from radiation burns, injuries, and illness. Survivors spoke of a white flash, a silent wave of heat, and shadows burned into concrete. But Japan still did not surrender. 3 days later, on August 9, a second bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. Another 40,000 lives vanished. 6 days later, on August 15, 1945, Japan surrendered. The war was over. In America, celebrations erupted. Soldiers came home. Flags waved. But underneath the joy was something else: a silence. A recognition that victory had come at an unbearable cost. Over 400,000 Americans had died. Millions more around the world were lost. Cities were gone. Families shattered. And the world had entered a new age, the nuclear age, where the power to destroy everything now sat in the hands of men. In the years that followed, trials were held. Nazi war criminals were judged at Nuremberg. The world tried to rebuild, to forgive, to remember. But for those who fought, who landed on beaches, flew through flak, and walked through ruined cities, the memories never faded. They had witnessed not just war but the very edge of humanity. And still, they had marched forward. Because they